Hey, what's up, Home Slice? It's producer Mike, your boy, subbing in on the intro. Coach Kinsley is on injured reserve this week, so we're running a double episode of hydration and macronutrients, two of our most popular episodes. We love them, and so should you. We'll be back next week with a fresh episode. Enjoy. Welcome to 15-Minute Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley. I'm producer Mike, senior editor for the podcast, and a former client of Coach Kinsley's who benefited from every rep until I heard,
3, 2, 1, let's go! Remember to always consult your physician before starting any nutrition or fitness regimen.
"Hey, Coach, this story goes back a little bit of ways. Back when I started first training with you, I tried a lot to drink water. It would get to nighttime and I'd end up with these terrible cramps. And that's usually when we were doing the cardio resistance trainings where, I was pushing that dumb sled, or you had me doing those stupid bear crawls, which I'm terrible at. Pretty sure it was something water related. Was I not drinking enough? Was I drinking too much? What was going on?"
Oh, that was definitely dehydration. You are not drinking enough. Your body will let you know when you're not drinking enough, and that is one of the main ways, especially when you're working out. Most people, generally speaking, are dehydrated, unfortunately. But then when you start working out, your muscles require even more, not just because of the sweat that you have during the workout, but because of the recovery, which most of your recovery happens at night. So all this is just adding up.
So I had one of those like 33-ounce things of water. I would drink it through the day. That wasn't enough.
One, Mike. No, 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 no. So, very basic advice. This is the minimum amount of water you should have. Take your body weight in pounds, divide it in half, and then the minimum you should have that day is that much in ounces. So, half your body weight in ounces. But if you're working out, you require more. And then there's also other reasons that you would require more because yes, that little equation that's just based off your body weight, but your metabolic rate and actually your body surface area also affects how much water you need.
Basal metabolic rate? What are you talking about?
So that would essentially be, I like thinking of it as your passive calories. So if you did absolutely nothing all day, your basal metabolic rate is the calories you would burn anyways just by existing.
So then the water affects that how?
Well, every single system requires water. And everyone knows your body's made of 75% water. Everyone knows that, but they don't think that literally every single system, I'm talking not just muscular, I'm talking cellular, nervous, lymphatic, cardiovascular, endocrine, literally every single system, and therefore every single cell in your body requires water to function properly and not die early. This is life or death, Mike.
So the one big cup of water I had all day wasn't
Not
wasn't
quite
quite
enough.
enough. So I actually deserved the cramps that I got. And it was later, coach, that you did tell me that I needed to drink more water. And that stopped it. So now I work out and I don't have to worry about that anymore because I drink enough water.
Water is the best thing you can do for today's health as well as your long term health, and it's the cheapest. Just plain water.
What about the Gatorade and the energy drinks and the sports drinks? And I mean, don't those count too?
So I'm glad you asked. They count, but the thing about it is that not everyone needs that. The idea behind, your sports drinks, they're electrolytes, which is essentially sodium, maybe some potassium. But the athletes that lose sodium to a point where it would be relevant enough, like more than what the average diet would take care of, those are your endurance athletes. So unless you're running, 10Ks, working out 5 hours a day, it's not essential. What is essential is plain old water.
All right, coach. So I'm not drinking Gatorade because I don't really need to because I'm not going 5 hours or anything crazy. I've got my water, spreading it across the day. But what if I decide to, have a big cup of Joe, knock back a couple of diet sodas? Can I count those liquid ounces toward my total goal? Is that the same?
It's not the same. I wish it was. I love coffee. I'd call myself a coffee snob. But the thing about it is that's practically a diuretic, which means you are losing water when you have those type of drinks. So it's doing the opposite, unfortunately. You're going to have to make up for it. So that addresses the coffee. So normal sodas are going to greatly affect your caloric intake for that day. And then I have a lot of clients where they're like, "Oh, no, it's diet." Well, the thing about diet soda is that a lot of them are sweetened with aspartame, and that is not good for your brain health. There have been some studies that can see the effects of it on your neurotransmitters. So the only thing that counts towards your water is water.
That can be pretty cheap. I think I have something in my house, you turn it on and it comes out free. Well, not free. It's included in the price of utilities, but it's not as much as buying sports drinks and energy drinks. And, you see athletes do that, but I'm pretty sure a real athlete probably doesn't knock that stuff back.
Probably not as much as the average Joe does.
All right. So, coach, you got me drinking my big cup of water 3, 4 times a day. What if, like, I don't know, in the morning or I forget it somewhere, I decide to knock back, 96 ounces of water in one sitting? Does that count?
With that number that you get by dividing your body weight in half, if you just slammed that much water at one time, that doesn't mean that you're hydrated. Hydration is not you are or you aren't. It is a process. So, having water throughout the day is very important. So, some advice that I give a lot of my clients that struggle with water is to have it first thing in the morning. This starts your metabolic rate. It's so much better to put on your stomach first thing than, let's say, something acidic like coffee. But then it can get you into the mindset that you need to consistently be having that water. And there have been a few studies that have shown the effects of having water like before your meals and seeing weight loss in the group that had water, like 500 milliliters before their meals versus the group that didn't. They saw much greater loss in weight. And that can probably have to do with the fact that the signals that your body gives you for thirst is the same signals that it gives you for hunger. So a lot of times you might think that you're hungry, but you're actually thirsty, which is also why consistent intake of water is important.
All right, coach. So you got me off my 1 gallon walk around water, from 5 to 7. So now I'm hydrating more often. My workouts have moved to noon now, lunchtime. So what should I be consuming prior? Should I drink water during? Do I just break it out evenly or do I do more before or more after? How do I balance that?
That's a good question. So, around your workout, it is very beneficial to go into your workout hydrated, right? That's going to help with blood flow, but it's not good to chug water right beforehand because you want that water to be available to you, right? So, it's already in the system, not sitting there in your stomach waiting. So, definitely don't chug water beforehand, but maybe an hour beforehand have a healthy serving, like a good 16er, and then during the workout and leading up closer to your workout, you should be sipping. And I say sipping specifically because if you have that water just sitting there in your stomach, do you ever work out and you kind of feel it like jiggling around?
Yes. Boo.
Yeah, yeah. It's the worst. That's because your blood is not in that system. It is being used in your muscles right now. It is not worried about what's going on in your digestive system. It's not going to be digesting. So that's why I'm saying sipping. Do not chug during your workout. So uncomfortable. And then after the workout, that's when you can feel free to get back to it, reasonable amounts. You don't need to just sip. Across the board, like, don't chug until your stomach's too full. You don't want to be bloated.
So, coach, when we started way back in the day, we were working out at like 5:30. I know I'm not going to wake up at 4 to start drinking water. Is that sort of a sipping circumstance that early in the morning? Because I think now you have 5:30 clients or 5 a.m.
Yes.
clients.
Yes, that would be a sipping circumstance. And then hydrating before bed is an option, but you don't want it to disrupt your sleep. So if you're waking up to go to the bathroom, then it's better to save the sipping for the morning and for during your workout.
Okay, coach. So, generally speaking, I drink half my body weight in ounces of water. Are there any other instances where I need to drink more or less? If it's hot outside or if I have a different body type?
Yes, yeah, there are some different groups that would have to consume more. Considering metabolic rate, body surface area, and body weight, if you're obese, you'll have to drink more water because of the body surface area, because of all these, your metabolic rate's also going to be greater. And then for women that are pregnant or breastfeeding, their metabolic rate is much higher too. So they're going to need to consume more water in that case.
All right, coach, hit the highlights for us.
You need half your body weight in ounces of water daily. This should be a constant intake of water. You should be sipping all the doodah day. And the big why? Because all your cells need water, meaning all your systems need water, meaning all the time that you are alive, you should be sipping and hydrating. You will be faster, you'll be smarter, you'll be stronger with constant water. Hydrate or dihydrate, baby.
Hashtag hydrate or dihydrate. All right, homies, now enjoy macronutrients for your fitness journey. All right, coach, help a brother out. What are macronutrients?
Your macronutrients would be your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fats.
I wasn't familiar with macronutrients in that way. I've seen it all over the web, but it's certainly a new term to me in fitness. What are they specifically?
Yeah, let's break it down. I'll start with protein. Protein, we always hear, especially if you are starting your fitness journey, you need to get your protein. And that is so true. So, protein is essentially amino acids linked together by peptide bonds. And this is what's going to really help you build and repair your body tissue as you are weightlifting. But anyone, whether you are having an active lifestyle or not, needs protein to survive.
Amino acids? You kind of lost me there, CK. So, amino acids, break it down for me.
So, protein must be broken down into amino acids before the body can decide what to do with it. Whether it's going to build and repair your body tissue or sometimes be used as energy, but we'll get into that. So, the two main groups of your amino acids would be your essentials and your non essentials.
Okay, so you got me at essential amino acids and non essential amino acids. Help me understand the difference between the two.
So the name could be a little misleading. You need both of these, but your essential amino acids are ones that you're going to need to consume and make sure that you eat because your body can't produce them in the amounts necessary to build those bonds that make your protein. And then the non essential amino acids, you still need them, but your body can produce those, as long as you're not starving yourself.
So then I produce one and don't produce the other, but I need to have both, right?
Right. You need to eat. You can't be starving your body and expect it to synthesize and manufacture what it needs. But the essential ones are going to need to be present at the site of protein synthesis at the same time. Otherwise, your protein's not going to be created. Your essential amino acids are your limiting factors when protein is synthesized.
Okay, so if I'm working out, basically, you're saying, in my fitness journey, I'm going to need to eat. Starving myself is not going to help me get stronger, build more endurance with bigger muscles. That's not the way to go then.
No, it is not. Yeah, I think that's a really good point because a lot of people that are trying to lose weight, will be at too extreme of a caloric deficit. And yes, the scale might move and they might lose mass, but if it's muscle mass, you're not doing yourself a long term favor because muscle mass is what's going to keep you capable, keep you going. That's longevity. And your muscle mass is so important for your bone density as well. Both of those work together.
So, coach, I have a slight confession here in that I was one of those that went into a larger caloric deficit. When I first started seeing progress, I thought, well, gosh, if I don't eat and keep working out, I'm gonna lose a whole bunch of weight and be skinny. Which, when you're big for a number of years, as I was for almost decades, I would say that I was just looking to get skinny, and I thought this was the way to do it.
A lot of people, especially when they begin their fitness journey, they're just looking to be skinny, and I really don't like that word because it's tying you back to that scale, to that number. And I prefer to aim for being fit. And that's where, you can start prioritizing muscle mass and how much you're capable of doing. And let's say that had that experience, but you were still prioritizing protein. You were still getting about zero point 0.4 to 1 gram of protein per pound that you weigh, right? Well, if you're not getting enough carbs then you're still doing yourself a disservice because protein, though its main function is to build and repair body tissue, if you're not getting enough carbs, your body does have the ability to use those amino acids for energy and won't be building anymore. So you need carbs as well. And I feel like a lot of people are afraid of carbs or think that they're bad for you.
Again, coach, I have to make a confession. I loved carbs at one point in my life. Pasta was good. Pancakes were good. Bread was good. But in excess, it didn't work well for me. So talk to me about carbs.
So I like that you gave those examples because I do feel like when a lot of people think about carbs, they only think grains, which are the ones that you mentioned. Your carbs are grains, but it's also fiber and your starches and your sugar. Carbohydrates are neutral compounds made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
So it sounds like carbs are more than just my lovely pancakes and French toast. Carbs can be other things too. Can you break that down for me so I can at least, when I read a label, know what to look for?
Some carbs would be like the ones that you mentioned, but also legumes and your fruits and vegetables are carbs. And those are so essential to just your total indigestion as well as your micronutrients.
Micronutrients. That's the first I've sort of heard that. We were on macronutrients. Now we got micronutrients.
Oh boy, here we go.
All right, here we go.
Oh man, that is a big topic for another sode, perhaps. I'll give you a little bit. So your micronutrients would be like your vitamins and iron. So if you look at your nutrition label towards the bottom where they have the percents, that would be a good example of your micronutrients.
Like zinc and riboflavin.
Wow, yeah.
Look at me go. Look at
You
me
got
go. All right.
it.
Another episode then. So now that I know what carbs are, can you tell me what they do?
So, your carbohydrates are your main source of energy, and this is for all bodily functions. So, conscious and unconscious. I'm talking your brain, nervous system, and then, of course, your muscles when you're working out. And that's why I said that if you're not having carbs, you're doing yourself a disservice if you are exercising, especially. But going back to that brain function, your brain is constantly needing and asking for glucose. So, if you're not getting it from your carbs, those proteins that you're eating are going to be used for it instead. And that is a constant, consistent need, similar to water.
I was doing a disservice to my fitness journey by not starving myself, but certainly being in a big deficit and patting myself on the back for surviving being hungry when that was my body saying, dude, we got to do something about this. I had gone past, I think, the cravings, the psychological cravings of what I used to be like to my body's like, dude, now eat and drink now. And so I'm doing that now in my fitness journey and I am seeing benefit.
That is
Uh,
great.
Hashtag thanks, coach.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Satiety is partially mental, but it's going to be a lot of all of your macronutrients. So your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fat all are involved in your satiety. And the one that's going to help you the most of the carbohydrates with that is fiber. Now, it's kind of funny, fiber is not really digestible.
So then, if fiber is not digestible, then how exactly does that help me?
So there's soluble and insoluble fiber. So some of it digests a little bit. It'll be this like gel substance going through your intestines, and that helps your intestinal health. And there's been plenty of studies that show that proper intake of fiber is associated with like lower risk of heart disease. So it really helps. And how much you should be looking for is 25 to 38 grams in your day. Fiber can be found in lentils as well as uncooked fruits and vegetables like apples. And of course, in like your legumes, your peas, lentils, beans, there's also protein. Almost every single food has a variety of protein, carbohydrates, and fats inside of it. And that's why reading your nutrition label is important because nothing is just all one thing. You have a mix and you need that mix to be correct for you, your lifestyle, and your goals.
All right, coach, you've started me on proteins and carbs. I've got my information. I think that leaves fats, which sometimes are a friend of mine. Tell me why they're my friends and tell me why sometimes they're not.
Yes, fats are your friend. I'm glad you started with that because they are in all of your cells and they really help with cellular structure. More in some cells than others, like it's going to be more in your nerve tissue than your muscle tissue. And then, of course, this is part of the energy that you're burning when you work out, especially when you work out for longer periods of time. Now, it's not your friend pretty easily because it's the most concentrated form of energy. So, I mean, you're getting the most calories per gram. So it's just really easy to overeat fat. And fat is what's our stored excess energy. So too much fat is going to stick.
Okay, coach, you filled my noggin with information on proteins, carbs, and fats. I know about them, I know what they do. Now, how much do I need?
So looking at your calories for the whole entire day, you're going to want 20 to 35% of your total caloric intake being from fat. There's not many studies that show it's beneficial to have less than 15, so sticking to that 20 to 35% for fats is really good. And then for your carbohydrates, you'd be looking for 45 to 65% of your total caloric intake. And that's for long-term diet recommendations. All of these are for long-term diets. And then your protein, you'd be looking for 10% to 35% of your total caloric intake. Again, long term diets, and it's all going to depend on your lifestyle.
All right, coach, if I'm in fitness mode, what am I looking for?
In order of importance and of ratio, it would be the most protein and then carbs and then the least fats. But your protein percent and your carb percent can be the same. But that would really depend on what you're trying to do, you know? So if you are really looking to drop weight in a small amount of time, so this would be like bodybuilding competitions, they decrease their caloric intake so significantly. And that cut is usually going to be from carbs. But you got to think your carbs, your energy, right? And if you're not getting enough carbs, then your brain is going to grab those amino acids from your protein. So as you lower your carbohydrate intake, you must increase your protein intake.
So, what does one good fitness meal look like?
You would want that meal to include all of your macronutrients. And especially, again, prioritizing protein, it needs to be a complete protein. So that would be a protein that has all of your essential amino acids available at the same time. So for people that do eat meat, I would always suggest fish. It has the necessary fats for brain health and really good for your hair, skin, nails. And then also tons of protein. And then maybe having that with like rice would be a nice grain. And of course, we gotta get some veggies, some micronutrients in there. I would probably lean towards legumes like edamame because you can get a little more protein as well as carbs and micronutrients with edamame.
Coach, I'm not a fan of fish. What else can I do?
I get that a lot. I'm trying to get people to eat fish. If you don't eat fish, let's say you don't eat meat at all, then in that case, to make a complete protein, you would want to do like rice and beans, or you can do lentils and bread. And that's also going to take care of some of those carbohydrates that you need. And then I'm assuming you'd cook those with a little bit of oil, which would take care of your fat intake.
Interesting, because I would consider those things to be really heavy, but it sounds like that it would be a complete meal if I'm fitness journey or not.
That's a good point with saying that it could feel heavy. And that's where your portion is really important. And keeping track of how much you're having at the end of the day is more important than per meal. Let's say you have a huge breakfast and you front loaded your day, you're going to be hungry. So it is more beneficial to spread those calories out, right? So you're not at a surplus unless you mean to be at the end of the day, and you won't feel heavy after eating a bigger meal.
All right, coach, it sounds like to me, to this old man, that I can't eat just pell mell or helter skelter, that I need to be intentional. On my phone, I have fitness apps that help me track my nutrition to make sure that I hit the right mix. Is that helpful to be that intentional about it? Because for me, it became a habit.
Yes, for sure. You can only stay intentional about what you're aware of. You need to know what you're putting in your body to be able to adjust it properly. For some people, it is a lot to take on to track on an app or even on paper. So, what I would suggest is just read your nutrition label, read it every single time, and you'll get a better idea of what you are doing and how you can adjust from there.
If I'm looking at a packet of cupcakes or Twinkies, that's going to tell me something I probably don't want to read.
Right, but you need to. But you need to. Stay honest.
All right, CK, hit the highlights for us.
All right, the highlights. So, your macronutrients or your macros are your proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And if you are on a fitness regimen, you should prioritize them in that order: protein, carbohydrates, and fats in your diet. But no matter what, whether you are just living, trying to lose weight, or trying to gain, then you need to be eating all of them, just in the right portions and the right ratios for your goals. Thank you so much for joining us today on 15-Minute Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley. The fun doesn't need to stop here. Email me at coach@coachkinsley.com. You can check out my webpage, coachkinsley.com, and also find me on Instagram at, you guessed it, Coach Kinsley. Your girl. See you next week. And we're out. See ya.